Do you think this is like a big problem?
Toxic femininity?
Yeah.
I think it's a lot more widespread than we realize. We live?
We live.
We live. Welcome back to the Opinion Factory podcast, the podcast for free thinkers and challenge seekers.
Yes, sir.
I'm Khelil.
I'm Alex.
And, we've spoken about this before, and I'm sure you and the listeners have heard a lot about toxic masculinity, right?
Of course.
What I want to talk about today is the counter to that, right? Toxic femininity, because I don't really hear much about that. I don't know if you have.
I've never even heard that term before.
I've never heard that term.
Is it a thing?
Well, that's what I looked it up. It's up for conversation, I guess.
I never heard of it. I don't know.
Is it a thing? Well, we know the definition of toxic masculinity already, right? Is when masculinity, in its essence, is used for negative purposes or with negative intent.
Yeah, like too macho. Don't cry. Hold your feelings. Say that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Toxic femininity is kind of the same thing from what I've seen. It's been defined as when one works to the benefit of others to the detriment of oneself. Is that what you think about when you think of toxic femininity?
No. When one works to the detriment.
To the benefit of others, but to the detriment of oneself. And by others, it's most likely men.
So the woman is benefiting other people.
But hurting herself.
No, I'm not. No.
And to be fair,
No.
it's kind of in line with the way toxic masculinity came about. Because at first, when it first came about, toxic masculinity said that men were hurting themselves by being too macho and not showing emotions, and they were messing up their mental health and stuff like that. That's why it was toxic. It was toxic to us.
But it wasn't benefiting anybody else either, though.
It wasn't.
that's what I'm trying to understand that.
It wasn't. So when I thought about toxic femininity, like when I first thought about it, this was not what I had in mind at all.
Nah.
Right? Back when we did the New Year's episode for things that we want to leave behind, when people, I feel like, generally think about toxic femininity, they think about the women who are so entitled that they will actually insult you and get somebody to beat you up if you don't reciprocate her advances. That's what I think about when I think about toxic femininity.
That's what I think about too, man.
And nobody talks about this, but it happens all the time. I've seen so many stories. I remember one in particular that really stuck out to me was this guy. It was in a cafe or something, and this girl thought he was cute, whatever. Came up, tried to talk to him. He's like, "I'm sorry, but I'm just not interested." She was like, "Are you gay?" He was like, "No, I'm just not interested."
Yeah.
And she was like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" And he's like, "Yo, why are you getting all mad?" And she left and brought back like some friend or her brother to beat the guy up because he insulted her or some shit like that.
Corny.
And all that stuff. And that's just like the tip of the iceberg. Like there's many different ways I feel like toxic femininity shows its face. It could be in that situation when it comes to like female to male, right? What about female to female? You feel like that happens at all? Female to female toxic femininity?
I think girls just hate each other. Girls
like Mean Girls.
Yeah.
Mean
Girls is like a real
I'm hip.
Girls don't like each other, fam.
And I don't know why. I mean, there's no toxic masculinity usually only affects women. Is that right? Is that fair to say?
Kinda. I mean, I guess it could be toxic if you like never show your friends you care about them or something like that. I don't know.
But they don't show that they care about you either.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I get that.
But yeah.
But I feel like it's much more prevalent.
Girls do not like each other.
With women. And
for whatever reason, they don't like each other. They do not like each other, fam.
I can't tell you why. I find it very interesting, and hopefully we can do this episode again with a woman here to tell me. Should we find a mean girl? Like, you feel like a mean girl will come on here talk about why she just shitted on other girls in high school?
I don't know. It's not even past high school. A lot of people I know in my life don't have the same friends females, I should say, don't have the same friend group that they had 5-6 years ago. Like, few, I'd say it's it's more rare for that to be the case than it's like, oh, I'm still with my high school or middle school friends.
Because
it still happens, but like for the most part, women just don't get along for whatever reason. You hear it all the time. Oh, I prefer male friends because it's less drama.
Yeah,
you know, like you hear that shit all the time.
Yeah.
I don't know why girls don't like each other. There's something going on. I think it's like when girls fight, it's all about like status and shit.
Yeah.
And like gossip or whatever.
Yeah, you're right.
But
drama for the sake of drama, I feel like is another defining trait of toxic femininity.
Yeah, you know what I think of? The thing I think of is we talked about this before, but we got a grown ass woman, right? That like pretend it's cute to be crazy. Like that's what I think of like toxic femininity.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, I'm crazy. You gotta handle me. You gotta. What the hell are you talking about?
You know, and that's
like, what are you talking about?
Another point I want to make later, but actually I'll make it now. Where do you think that idea? Where do you think that you feel like toxic femininity and toxic masculinity both come from the same place? Like, are men toxic? Are males toxic for the same reasons that females are toxic when they exhibit their toxic
No, because
traits?
when you hear toxic masculinity, because of the patriarchy, right? It's because society's based on a patriarchal system. Man's in charge. Man holds the power. And they've done things to benefit themselves, but it still hurts themselves at the same time. Toxic femininity, I can't imagine, like, there's no matriarchy, fam. Like, I can't imagine that's where it comes from. Like, there's no, you never hear the term alpha female. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you hear alpha male, you don't hear alpha female. So it's not like, it's not just a power grab at play right now.
But I've seen some arguments that say toxic femininity is actually a direct result of the patriarchy. And it goes back to that original definition of when you act to the benefit of others to your own detriment. Women were expected to take abuse back then, to be docile, to listen and shut up and all that stuff, to the betterment of, I guess, their husbands' lives, but to the detriment of themselves. And that whole situation came from the patriarchy.
But that's not what we think about when we talk about toxic femininity, though.
No, but that's what people who write essays about toxic femininity say about it. And that's one of the reasons. And there's like 3 different reasons, right? I forgot the 3 of them, why toxic masculinity is to blame for toxic femininity. And the patriarchy is like the single common denominator among all of them. For some reason, it's our fault that women are as manipulative as they are right now. It's why they're as entitled as they are right now, because they haven't been as privileged in the past as we've been, right, as men.
I'm trying to go along with this. I'm trying to.
So if you haven't been,
trying to stay here.
Right. So if you haven't been as privileged in the past, now that you have more freedom than you ever have, and you want to even the playing field, you might employ some tactics to counter, the tactics of the opposing side. And so if men have been using their traditional masculine traits like strength and aggressiveness to control women for all this time, now women are using the traditional feminine traits like
crying,
empathy, and quote unquote weakness and frailty to manipulate men.
I can see that.
And that goes to another example of toxic femininity, where they pretend to be frail and weak and a damsel in distress to get out of doing something that they don't want to do just to get you to do it.
Yes, that I've seen 100%. But I'm not even too mad at those ones though. Like
those are fine.
I'm not as mad at those ones, right? I'm more upset with they can't take rejection type stuff, right?
Yeah.
I'm more upset with like I can never make the first move type stuff, right? It's like you gotta read my mind to know what I want type stuff.
And you know what else? I'm upset with the ones that say I can punch you in the face, but you can't do shit to me because I'm weak.
You know what?
I'm frail. I'm a female.
That never made sense to me, fam.
Toxic feminine.
Yes, 100%, because that does come from the patriarchy. You never had a woman, all that type of stuff. I believe. Why?
Because women are frail and weaker than us.
Yes,
and now they're feeding into that.
Listen, I'm not
to be manipulative now.
You should never hit you don't hit women. You don't hit people in general, but you don't hit, right?
I agree.
We're all on the same boat here. But thinking I could hit you right upside the head. You can't touch me back. like Solange and Jay-Z in the elevator,
and Quavo and who else? Who was
Saweetie
or something?
It's like that don't. don't make sense to me that this thing you can uppercut somebody, just wail on them, and it's like, nah, you can't hit me back because that's a toxic femininity I think of, right?
Yeah.
Toxic femininity I think of is like that rejection thing.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm gonna have my boys jump you because you didn't want me,
Right.
right? It's like,
And
the thing with men and women that where it's so different is, you're a guy, you got like being rejected is a part of being a guy, right?
Absolutely.
You're never gonna shoot 100%.
right. Well, unless you're your
Nah.
cousin, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, he's not shooting 100% either, man. He'll tell you himself he's not shooting 100%. He shoots for like 1 for 6 or whatever. When you're a woman though, it's like you're shooting like 90% from the line.
90? That's generous. More than that.
it might be,
More
man.
than
It's
that.
like,
And you don't even have to be like above average looking to
Yeah.
shoot like 95%.
you ever seen those things where it's like comparing a girl's Tinder to a guy's Tinder?
Oh yeah.
Right, a guy gets like a right swipe like once every 20 maybe.
You think so?
Around there, maybe once every 15, once every 10.
Okay.
Right. If you're a
I must
girl,
have been doing something wrong.
it's like match. Like, bro, you can swipe, it don't matter.
Facts.
You can just keep swiping.
And that feeds into that entitlement that they have.
Yeah.
So when they actually finally get rejected, it's like 99% of these. Well, every other guy that I've actually hit on have wanted me like secretly. You know what I
And
mean?
you know what that creates? It's not that there's something wrong with me, or he's just not interested. There's something wrong with you.
Exactly.
Like you're
Are
gay.
you gay?
Yeah. That's what happens. It's like it can't be something. It can't be just like you just don't like my type. It's nah, it got to be you.
Right.
It's
And
not.
that's another example of toxic femininity, right? Where you assume a guy's likes, dislikes, and a big part of his personality based on the fact that he's a guy, based on the fact that he's male.
Mm-hmm.
So if like this even happens in relationships, if your woman comes up to you and she's trying to get busy, and you're like, I got a headache, or I had mad work today, I'm tired.
Mm-hmm.
How does she take that rejection?
Oh,
Not very well.
you know how it go, man.
Not very well.
You know how it go. Man.
But when it's the reverse, and she's tired, she had a long day, you're expected to be like, all right, you know what, I'm not going to force you. I completely understand.
Right.
And that's the right thing to do, mind
is,
you. That's
it is.
expected. That should be expected from both sides.
Hey,
But now because you're a guy, and because you're supposed to want it all the time, there's something wrong with you if you're too tired to get busy.
100%. I mean, we had friends complain about this, like, you know, dealing with females with like high sex drive and all this type of stuff. It's like,
And you feel like you have to keep up. This man told us, bro, he was tired. He was drained. He didn't get no sleep. And he still did it anyways. Like, come on.
to be fair, we did clown him though. to be fair,
Because why would he agree to keep doing it? He deserved that. To be, like, he had to get clowned. You have that's constructive bullying at that point. You don't do that to yourself, man. If you're tired, say you're tired.
She don't accept that she's tired, fam.
Why is it that as a guy you have to do this, and as a woman you're free to choose?
When you're on the lower end of the spectrum, you're able to, you know, you're on the lower end of the power stick.
Mm-hmm. Especially in the sexual dynamics area in relationships, it's not always equally
You
balanced.
get to get away with a couple of things, man. Maybe that's just what it is. They just get away with, like, maybe this whole conversation we're having right now is just like a side effect of not being in control for so long.
Of males not being in control.
Of
for so
women
long.
not being in control for so long. You
Well,
know?
yeah.
It might just be that, man.
I don't want to.
But you have to also think about like the rejection thing, especially now with social media, fam.
Mm-hmm.
These chicks' egos out of control.
Oh yeah.
It's out of control.
And I mean, like I said, you don't even have to be above average looking. You know, you get an OnlyFans.
Guys will fuck anything, fam. Anything.
And you know what's actually kind of interesting, how sex is manipulated on both sides of the spectrum, right? Because for the toxic males who want sex, he would use force, right? Like physical force, rape.
Mm-hmm.
And then for the toxic females who want sex, what do? They use that mental, subtle manipulation type thing to get what they want ultimately.
Like what? I need an example right here.
Like when they say, "Are you gay? Are you not a man? You're supposed to always want it." Like, is that subtle, like attacking your identity as a man
I hear
to
that.
get what they want, instead of a man saying, not even saying, just forcing you to do it.
Yeah. I get that. I hear that.
It's kind of interesting.
I hear that. It's not the same level as obviously the physical force, but I hear what you're saying.
No, it's not as bad. Well, that's the thing about femininity and toxic femininity in relation. It's a lot more subtle, right, than masculinity and toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
Right? Women will, I guess, from their history of being docile and submissive and being quiet, they've learned to get what they want from that place, and they turn that into a place of power, that passive aggressiveness, right? And so she will say, "Are you gay? Are you what's wrong with you? What's wrong with
Yeah.
Are you healthy? How old are you? Whatever." She will clown you, all that stuff. And when it comes to, let's say, like custody of your children, like women already know that they have such a massive advantage that they don't have to do like that many. They don't have to take that many steps to prove why she should get custody of the kids.
True. I do agree with you. I'm gonna just shift points real quick. Do you think this is like a big problem?
Toxic femininity?
Yeah.
I think it's a lot more widespread than we realize.
How much of a problem do you think it is though? Like you know the one thing that we haven't mentioned that I always think about is accountability.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like women have a tough time with accountability, man. I just feel like I feel like it's the same thing about like. And I know I am generalizing here, so forgive me for generalizing, but I feel like it's the same thing we talked about in that episode where it's like, if you don't love me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best.
Right.
Who says that? Like guys don't say that. Like
No.
you know what I'm saying that, or it's like it's the same thing. Like you don't want to do something, like something's wrong with you, whatever.
Right.
I feel like that's where the issue lies with a lot of these problems. It's like
accountability.
Yeah.
You
You ever see like those things like the reason why she cheated, it's your fault she cheated, like that type of stuff, man.
Yeah.
Where it's like it's that type of thing.
I was coming at it from more of a point of entitlement, but I definitely see the accountability issue. And I feel like those things are not. They're definitely related. They're not mutually exclusive, right?
Of course.
When you believe that you inherently deserve a man who will jump in bed with you whenever you want, that he has to do everything he can possibly do to make you happy at all times, then it's very easy to think, well, if you can handle me at my worst, then you don't deserve me at my best.
And to be fair, men have contributed to this problem, because now you're looking at all the men that are lined up to like, I want this girl, all up in the Instagram comments. You post one picture, it's like, oh, you got 50 dudes lined up, ready to come part of the roster.
And that's our fault. That's 100% our fault. You know what I mean? I want to get into the creation of the simps, but we can't blame women for that.
So it's men's fault these women are gas, and they have the entitlement problem. So maybe it is the patriarchy's fault.
But the patriarchy didn't contribute to the discrepancy in the power dynamic when it comes to dating between men and women.
Who is gassing these females?
It's men, but it's not because of the patriarchy. It's not because men were in control of Forbes 500.
Well, maybe not the patriarchy, fam, but men are gassing these females. Person becomes gassed naturally because all these dudes are gassing her.
Hard to not get a big head from that.
Entitlement ensues.
Mm-hmm.
And then now, this person with the gassed ego thinks they can get whatever they want because, it's because you're rich and famous, you get whoever you want.
I was gonna say that. I'm thinking about it.
That's the thing too. Like, there's people who do not want to mess with Beyonce. There's people out there, fam. There's people who don't want to mess with Halle Berry.
I don't believe you.
I mean, it's the same thing. It's the same way. There's people who don't want to mess with Trey Songz or Denzel Washington or whatever. And the thing we always think of is like, how could you not? He's rich and he's famous. He's an actor, singer, that type of thing. It's like
you just reminded me of something.
They kind of have like a, not to that extent,
mm-hmm.
but it's like, I have things that you want that 90% of people in my life would like happily accept if I was offering it to them.
Right.
So it's not their fault then.
It's not, and
so maybe we should give them. Maybe we should just let this ride out then.
I don't think so. I don't think so, because even the rich and famous people thinking that they're entitled to taking what they want is wrong. That's why we got the Me Too movement.
Yeah, because, of course.
What was the guy's name from the newscaster who he has a button on his desk?
Sick ass. How can you forget that guy's
Matt
name?
Lauer.
Matt Lauer.
Yeah,
sick ass guy.
Lock the doors.
Sick ass guy.
an attractive colleague walked into his office so that she couldn't leave unless he wanted her to. Like,
that's sick.
But you reminded me of back in the day when Trey Songz was kind of new. I was really into his music. I was reading up on an interview that he did with the radio station.
Yeah.
And they were asking him, how many girls do you get? This and that. They asked him, have you ever been rejected? And he was like, yeah, I get rejected at the club all the time. And then the interviewer was a woman. She laughed. She was like, oh, yeah, right. And he's like, why are you laughing? Like, it's real. I guess he didn't have that entitlement at the time, but it was hard for other people to understand that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I feel like it all makes sense because him, even if he was entitled, like Matt Lauer, that's not a toxic femininity trait. That's just a toxic trait.
Yeah.
And so should we put entitlement in the category of toxic femininity? It comes with status, and women inherently get status.
But if women inherently get like, I don't want to tie status to femininity, but I feel like.
Oh, but it's very.
It's
very closely related.
Yeah, my thing is like.
It's tied. I'll say that.
Every woman can be like if a woman went up to like 80% of her guy friends and be like, yo, I want to mess with you. I want to, do something.
Oh, I've been waiting.
On top, right? On top, I feel like in most cases it would at least be tried out, even if it didn't work.
Yeah.
But they would hook up or whatever like that. Some type of thing would ensue, and I feel like most women have that opportunity more or less.
And I feel like they know that too.
Yeah.
So that's why a lot of times when a breakup happens, who moves on first? Who like not even moves on, but who's with somebody like?
I mean, because she can get somebody that fast. The guy could probably get somebody fast too. But it's like, yo,
but he doesn't have people lined up.
How many people when you take down your boyfriend pictures. Like, the DMs are gonna blow up.
The DMs are blowing up.
Once those pictures are taken down, you don't even got to post a status. It's gonna be somebody waiting for the thing, checking your profile every single day. Once that picture's taken down, it's like, I bet I'm in there. You know what's going on, man.
So how do we confront toxic femininity? What do we do about this? If you ask me if I think if it's widespread,
yeah.
Do you think it's an issue that needs addressing?
I don't know if I call it toxic femininity. The only two things I would say is people aren't mind readers, men aren't mind readers, right? So if you got something to say, just like none of that, none of the hints, none of the blues clues, like I can't read, like I could read, like just say what you feel.
I agree and I disagree.
Right? I'm not saying for you to be like, yo, I want to fuck you right now. I'm not saying you do that.
Oh, you talk about like when she wants, like when she's advanced.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought you meant like in general.
In general too.
I agree and I disagree.
And then it's just the rejection thing. The rejection thing, I'm just like, and bragging on being crazy. Those are things I would call. Those are things like I don't want to say it's toxic femininity, but it's things that I only see that
I will call that toxic
women
femininity.
Mostly do, right?
Because that comes from a place of where I guess I want to say accountability, like you said, but it comes from a place where I'm a woman, and so I get to do this. Yeah,
but
I feel like.
And I don't want to say rejection. Not accepting rejection is solely a woman thing, because
there's men.
Men are trash at accepting rejection. Men are OD trash. Like women have stories about like giving people fake numbers because they don't want to get hurt if they don't give a dude a number. Yeah. All that type of stuff. The bums that be like, oh, you so bad. It's like, nah, I don't want you. All right, you fucking ugly. Yeah, like.
And there was the dude.
That's corny.
The story that one of our female friends posted. This dude that broke this woman's jaw because she rejected him.
Yeah,
she refused to give him his number.
Yeah.
Like that.
So maybe right there. You call it toxic masculinity, but you wouldn't call it toxic femininity though. In most circumstances. I mean,
in when men do it, it's coming from a place, I guess, of entitlement. But what is he doing? Like, there's aggression there. There's there's violence there, and all that comes from boys will be boys. But then when women can't handle rejection, it's coming from a place of entitlement as well. But then it's flipped to be like, what's wrong with you?
No, yeah.
There's that subtlety to say, well, I'm. There's nothing wrong with me. I'm the catch already. I know this.
Yeah.
And so, like, I'm fucking with your psyche now.
I hear that. It does make sense. But I would say, like, yeah. So I agree. My thing is, the two things I look at is say toxic femininity, like the mind reading thing, and then the superiority complex type thing, man.
Yeah, the ego.
The Those are the two
ego
things.
part.
And sorry, I forgot the one that just feels like more of an immaturity thing than more toxic femininity thing is the bragging about being crazy. That don't make no sense to me.
Yeah.
I feel like that might be more immature,
could-
but I do see grown women still doing that. So it's like
she can be like 45 saying, "I'm crazy." You got a hand. Yes.
exactly. I'm happy you caught yourself. I'm happy you caught yourself. See, I feel like, you know, those are the three things I look at when you say toxic femininity. Like, it's not something I think about all the time.
Mm-hmm.
If you're telling me that, it's like the rejection thing, right? / entitlement.
Well, so what do we do about that one? How can we? Well, how do we combat the idea?
That's gonna be almost impossible. That was the hardest.
No, I feel
Bro,
like
that was the fam. If like we talked about the right swipes, fam, that one's the hardest one. Like 90% of the dudes in a chick's life will be like, "Oh yeah, I'll be with you." Like even if it's not sleeping, even if it's not like cuffing, it'll be like a hooking up type aspect or something like, or willing to try. I feel like that would happen to a lot of people.
all you gotta do is recognize the fact that a man is not entitled to like and dislike things based on the fact that he's a man. I feel like if you can understand that, you can understand why a man would say to Beyonce, "I'm sorry, but I'm not interested." That mythical man.
That just sound that don't even sound real. That don't sound real, fam.
It happens, and if I'm talking about relationships and with strangers, right? Don't expect a man to want it just because he's a man. And I feel like once you can understand that, you won't take it to heart as much.
I don't know how you're gonna convince people to be like this. Don't know how you're gonna convince women.
That's the first step.
All right.
The second step is to get rid of simps, which obviously is the hard part, and that's something that we got to do ourselves.
But it's not even simps though. It's not even simps, fam. If you're a girl who just has guy friends, and you were like, you know, it's been so long since I had sex, like you won't have sex. That girl, the guy's gonna say yes.
I would see that.
So it's not even. That's not even a simp thing. That's just like a dude that's like, okay, yeah.
But that doesn't mean that you're entitled to just fuck any guy you want. That's ridiculous.
It is, fam. When you able to operate on a just going by life, and the dude's just hollering at you nonstop, left and right, you're gonna cut. It's a natural reaction, fam. You're gonna become like, oh, I'm nice, I'm ill. Like all these dudes. That's something I don't like about, like, you know. If we the femininity things, like, oh, like all these dudes want to mess with me, all these dudes want me. It's like, yeah, it's whatever. But it's like,
if we can expect rich and famous people to do that, we can expect.
We don't expect rich and famous people.
Yeah, we do. That's why we have Me Too.
We want them to do that, but we don't expect them to do that. And anytime that news comes out, it's like people always think, it's like, why would the person do that when they're rich if they can have anybody? That's always the reaction.
Louis C.K.
Louis C.K. is a weirdo. That don't count.
Matt Lauer, he's not like the type where I could just have anybody he wants. But I guess he got money, and so that gives him access to a lot of women.
Right, there's no status you ever reach in your life where you can just have I don't even want to say literally a rape button. There's no point in life you can literally have that button, fam.
I agree with you.
But if you think about, like, if we go across the to like some like LeBron James or like entertainers and famous people, not like the producers like Harvey Weinstein, not like those type of people. Like your Beyonces, your LeBron James, your Trey Songz, your Taylor Swifts, whoever. You go to that level, it's like anybody wants you, and that's like, it's not the same. It's not to the same degree.
Yeah,
but women are gonna have that.
I get it, but I'm trying to think if I really do expect them to feel entitled. I want to say that Trey Songz, LeBron James, Beyonce, and all that still recognize the fact that though a lot of people want them, there are still some people, not the majority, but still some people who don't.
And you're not gonna think what's wrong with me. You're gonna think what's wrong with them because everybody wants me.
You know what? To a certain extent, that's a healthy type of like separation from rejection that everyone needs. But as a guy, when you get rejected, the healthy way to handle it is to think, oh well, your loss, right?
Yeah.
And so, in a sense, when, like, it's not saying there's something wrong with you, but it's just saying, hey, you missed out on something great.
Of course.
And that's healthy. I feel like that's fine, and I feel like that's how a lot of celebrities may feel if they get rejected, right? They might want the person more, even because they're not used to being rejected, and I get that because, you know, There's a mystery. Why don't you want me?
Of course, of course.
Yada, yada, yada. But that entitlement, I feel like that, I don't want to call it a disorder, but that's just taking it too far. That's just taking that healthy separation way too far in the correct direction. And I don't want to say I expect my celebrities to just feel entitled to every single person that they meet.
They shouldn't be.
I can't say I have that expectation. And so if I don't have the expectation for them, then to my average women, my female listeners, our family members, our friends, I have to say I can't expect you to feel the same way. You can't just expect every guy to be able to want to jump on you. That's ridiculous. Especially as a non-celebrity.
I hear that, fam. And in theory, it does sound correct, but it's only a natural reaction when so many people actually do want to jump on you. That's you're going to think everybody wants to jump on you because so many people in your life want to jump on you.
If you just think about it, though. Like, if you just get out of your head for a second, you'll realize that it's completely fine if somebody doesn't.
No, it is fine. It is fine.
Like all you have to do is like, wait, I know I'm rich, I know I'm famous, I know I'm beautiful, I'm sexy, I'm this, I'm that, I'm Rihanna. Imagine a dude saying no to Rihanna. I'm Rihanna.
But it creates that thing. This dude did not want me, so it's like almost makes you want them more.
Well, it does, but that doesn't mean that you're entitled. Like, all I'm saying is don't feel entitled to them. You can want them more, that's fine. But don't say, what the are you gay? Like, that's just ridiculous. And that's what I feel like we're saying when we expect celebrities to feel entitled. Like they expect if someone doesn't want them that they're gay or they're this, they're that.
I hear that. But to wrap this up, man, we got the rejection thing, right? And just talked about, we broke that down.
We got the emotional manipulation part,
which I'm not the biggest fan of, but I can understand it.
You know, I'm weak, I'm frail, I don't want to do this, can you do it for me? Or I can hit you, I don't want you to hit me.
That second one's crazy, but, you know, we went down that rabbit hole one time. Lost tapes. And then we got the superiority complex. Everybody wants you, so you're just a shit, which I guess is it's natural. It's natural.
If it's natural to human beings, I'm still on the fence of putting that in toxic femininity.
So is there any really the stuff that is just solely feminine, fam? Because some of that
absolutely.
Which one is solely feminine?
The one where it says, because I'm a woman, I can do this.
All right, yeah.
Or
the hitting one, yeah.
Yeah, and there was so many different examples. There's the hitting one. There's the sex one. That's not even like rejection, like in the terms of strangers, but in just the sex one. I'm a woman. And then you're a man.
The like, are you gay type thing? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I got that.
And there's I feel like it hasn't been addressed largely because it's hard for people to recognize the fact that women can be manipulative and they can be abusive.
Yeah.
And so I feel like a lot of men and a lot of women are dealing with toxic. Like I've even seen an example where it has like a case manager who let her empathy like tell her to make her client like do something really out of pocket. Like because she cared so much, like she invested too much into it, and that's seen as toxic, is to her detriment, right? Like there's a lot of it that's I feel like solely feminine. The subtlety of it all.
Yeah, okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay. I got you, man. But what's the question you got for the people, man?
What do we do? Like I feel like at this point we recognize the fact that toxic femininity is a thing.
Yeah.
We can debate on whether or not the entitlement part of it falls into that category, but we should, if toxic masculinity exists, toxic femininity exists. It exists in all the examples that we've given you, all the ways that we've given you, and more, by the way, and many more examples, many more ways. Since we know that it exists, what do we do about it? I've proposed recognizing the fact, just thinking about things and recognizing the fact that you can't tell what somebody likes based on their gender. You're not entitled to anything yourself based on what's between your legs. Mm-hmm. That just takes maturity and logical thinking. I feel like that's how we combat it. Yeah. Is that things that we should expect from women? Women, I would argue, when they get into fights, when they get into discussions, and they don't employ logic the same way that we do. And so should we expect them to use the logic that I'm saying in the way that I'm saying it? That might not be fair. And so I'm asking, it might not be. We work differently, and I understand that.
Well, again,
so I'm asking, what?
No. Continue, man. I'm not gonna.
I think that's
fine.
fine. I think people should know this, and if they don't, if it becomes a thing, we'll make an episode about it. But what do we do to combat toxic femininity? That's all I got. Opinion Factory Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to leave a rating. If you're on YouTube, give a thumbs up and hit a subscribe if you like the channel. Share with your family, share with your friends. We are on Spotify, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts.
Yep. Whenever you listen to your podcast, thank y'all for listening, and we will see y'all
next week.